Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Advocates for criminal justice reform may be getting an early Christmas present. After weeks of delay, the bill is now moving toward a vote in the Senate.
President Trump joined faith-based groups to support the First Step Act. They say it brings needed change to our courts and our prison system. Dale Hurd has the story.
With a new Congress coming in just a few weeks, criminal justice reform is viewed by some as a now or never proposition. Last week, it appeared all but dead, but now it's on track for a Senate vote next week, where it's expected to pass. The First Step Act would reform sentencing guidelines and prepare inmates to return to society. Its backers say it would also reduce recidivism when a criminal becomes a repeat offender. Sean Hopwood served time for bank robbery, became a jailhouse lawyer, and is now a law professor at Georgetown.
We know that certain programs already can reduce recidivism because the Federal Bureau of Prisons has one, the Residential Drug and Abuse Program, which has reduced recidivism by 16%.
The president supports the legislation, as do some key Republicans. But critics, including Senator Tom Cotton, oppose it because it begins rolling back mandatory minimum sentencing and will speed up the release of some current inmates. Some fear it could give violent criminals a pass. The split in the GOP is one reason Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell had been reluctant to bring the bill to the floor. But he's now put a process in motion that could see a vote early next week.
We're really looking to get this done and have a Christmas miracle.
Heather Rice-Minus with Prison Fellowship told CBN News why many faith leaders support the bill.
Right now, the criminal justice system, we have some serious issues in terms of people receiving disproportional sentences and people not having the skills and opportunities they need inside prison to really transform and come home as good neighbors, good citizens.
A Justice Department report says 70 million Americans are directly involved in the criminal justice system. Reform advocates say it's bad policies, not an increase in crime, that has led to what some are calling an incarceration nation.
And we see the criminal justice system in this country as a huge barrier to opportunity for millions and millions of people, particularly those who have the least resources. And it creates a poverty trap. It makes us less safe and wastes a lot of resources.
The First Step Act cleared the House in May. And if it passes the Senate next week, many believe it will deliver the most significant changes to the criminal justice system in a generation. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
I certainly support this. We need to have reform in the criminal justice system. The stats are just overwhelming. We incarcerate more people in the United States than any other industrial nation. The reason it was let's get tough on crime bills that went through the Congress and then were signed into law by President Clinton. This is all way back when in 1994. It's time to reform it because we're literally putting too many people in jail. And they're staying there for very long periods of time because of these minimum sentencing guidelines. And we've taken the power out of the court system, away from federal judges to say certain cases need leniency. And we've created a nation of criminals. When you look at those stats, that 70 million of us have somebody that we know in the criminal justice system, you do scratch your head. This isn't based on an increase in crime, and it's not reducing crime. What it is reducing the criminal population. So it would be really good if this got through by Christmas. In other news, churches and other nonprofits may get a break from a new tax. John Jessup has more on that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
Thanks, Gordon. The 2017 Republican Tax Cut and Jobs Act put more money in most Americans' paychecks, but it also imposed a 21% tax on nonprofits for providing employees with parking, transportation, and other benefits. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin says new IRS guidelines on the tax offer flexibility and minimizes the burden to nonprofits. The new provisions come after several senators urged a repeal of the tax. Well, President Trump's private former attorney is speaking out after his sentencing this week. A judge ordered Michael Cohen to 3 years in prison for financial crimes and campaign finance violations. Cohen told federal prosecutors the president directed him to pay off 2 women who claimed they had affairs with Mr. Trump. The president says he didn't tell Cohen to do anything wrong and that his attorney acted on his own accord. Cohen responded in an exclusive interview with ABC News' George Stephanopoulos.
I did not do it to embarrass the president. He knows the truth. I know the truth.
The president could face indictment when he leaves office, and the investigations are growing. A new report from the Wall Street Journal quotes federal officials who say New York prosecutors are now looking into misuse of funds by the president's inaugural committee. Well, just 1 year after the Me Too movement began, evangelical leaders at Wheaton College hosted a summit focused solely on abuse in the church. Many survivors who are also well-known leaders spoke out. Heather Sells sat down with Christian teacher Beth Moore and others to talk about this unprecedented event.
The summit is a historic attempt by the evangelical world to publicly address abuse in the church. And it has caught the attention not just of survivors, but church leaders.
I have been raised in the church, and I have never seen anything like today in a gathering of this kind.
Bible study leader Beth Moore kicked off the meeting, noting a recent report on widespread abuse within independent fundamental Baptist churches.
So the question comes to us again, shall the church stand idly by? I've been told by a number of fellow Christians, I just don't read articles like that, Beth.
Moore told CBN News the church must stand ready for these stories.
One of the things that I really want to push back on is this thing that says, I just can't stand to hear about it. Listen, if people can go through this, we can listen to their stories.
And from the appearance here, people are preparing. More than 1,000 individuals attended or live streamed the event. 40 faith-based groups also watched remotely. Conference speaker and church consultant Nancy Beach says she sees a desire by many ministry leaders to learn more.
I do think the fact that so many people are streaming in and many organizations are doing that is a sign that there's a need and there's a call for help.
This has been an issue in our churches. It's not just the Catholics, it's not just fundamentalists. They've all been in the news lately. It's also evangelical churches, and we got to address some cultural issues within the church.
The summit put an emphasis on pastors, calling for greater accountability.
I would say an unaccountable pastor is both unbiblical and unhelpful and can even be dangerous. I think pastors need to be an accountable community with others.
I also think that what we're exploring here is as much an abuse of power as it is sexual sin.
Perhaps the biggest message, survivors must be heard.
When they become the priority for us, for all of us in leadership, in servant leadership, in lay leadership, whatever it may be, that's health.
For many churches, getting involved in an event like this is an important first step, and it might just signal to survivors that change is possible. Reporting in Wheaton, Illinois, Heather Sells, CBN News.
An important story. Thank you, Heather. Well, Israel is responding to terror attacks in the West Bank. The Israel Defense Forces arrested dozens of Hamas activists in overnight raids. This after a pair of deadly shootings that killed 3 Israelis earlier this week. One of those victims, a baby delivered prematurely after the mother was shot. Hamas is believed to be behind the attacks. A historic site in Israel now is safer for tourists. The IDF announcing this week that more than 1,500 landmines have been cleared near the site revered as the place where Jesus was baptized. CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell brings us that story.
This is Qasr al-Yahud on the Jordan River, the place many believe John baptized Jesus. It's also thought to be the area the children of Israel crossed over to the Promised Land and the site where Elijah ascended to heaven. Israel's side of the baptismal site opened to visitors in 2011, but the 250-acre area around it, known as the land of the monasteries, remained off limits. This area is strewn with mines and other explosive devices remaining from the Six-Day War and beyond. Because of security concerns, the area was marked and fenced, and access to the church's properties has been restricted since the 1970s.
We are working here almost 1 year. In this monastery, we work here 3 months. It takes us time to clean the area, clean from mines, clean from mortars, clean for booby traps.
7 churches have property here. 3 monasteries have already been cleaned, and CBN News toured 2 of them. The Franciscan Chapel was built in 1956 and belongs to the Vatican. The Ethiopian monastery was much larger and had a bakery and guest house.
Every millimeter of this site is checked at least by 3 people and by 2 different actions. So, as you understand, it's a very dangerous and difficult job.
Marcel Aviv leads the Israeli agency responsible for this type of operation. It's working with Hallow Trust, the world's oldest and largest humanitarian mine clearance charity, to clean this area.
When we will finish all the job here, those lands will be given to their owners, and the owners are the churches.
During the Six-Day War, this church-owned land came under Israeli control. It became an easy target for the Palestine Liberation Organization to attack Israeli soldiers. Eventually, the monks abandoned the area and explosives were spread all around. Israel has maps of the mines, but according to Supervisor Moshe Hillman, many have shifted over the years, and there are other challenges.
And it was here full of metal. It was a firing zone, it was an irrigation zone. Monks have a small farm in this monastery, so it takes us time to clean.
Some 800,000 people visit the baptismal site each year, and that's expected to triple once the monasteries are back.
I hope that this garden that was left 50 years ago will be green again, and all of us will be happy to visit here and to see this amazing area. I hope and it will be, and I'm sure that it will be.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Qasr Al-Yahud, the Jordan Valley.
Gordon, as Chris just suggested, I imagine that site will become an even more popular tourist attraction now.
Well, it was opened up just a few years ago. I've actually held a baptismal service at that site. There's another one closer to Galilee that is a little bit safer. Aren't any mines strewn around it, but this one is the one that historically has been recognized as the place where John the Baptist baptized Jesus. And at that point, the Jordan is actually just a small stream, and you get this warning: if you go too far into the Jordan River, well, you've crossed over to the nation of Jordan, and we're not going to let you come back. And by the way, they might shoot at you. So it's not exactly a safe environment. And when you drive to it, you see all these warnings: don't get off the road because there are all these mines around. So it's one of those where you're dead to your own life and you're risen into new life. If you're going to get baptized there, it's a dangerous area. It's good to see Israel cleaning it up. It is a sign that relations between Jordan and Israel are getting a lot more peaceful than they have been in decades past. And so, yay, this is a good thing. And when you go there, you see not just structures that were built in the 1950s, you see ancient structures that are centuries old on both sides of the river. So not just on the Israeli side, but also on the Jordanian side, you see a lot of churches. So this has been the recognized site for a long time, going all the way back to the Byzantine. So this is the place. I encourage people to go because it'll change your view of how the Bible came into being. It'll change your view about the baptism. And it's a wonderful place, if you want to be baptized, to go for that service as well.